All right. Thank you all for being here today. My name's Karsten. I'm part of the marketing team here at Braincell, and I'll be playing your host for today. Very excited for our ERP Contender Series, Acumatica versus Sage Intacct. Just some quick housekeeping to start us off. This will be about a 60-minute presentation with a Q&A at the end. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please drop them in the question box. I'll be monitoring and I'll pass it along to Katie and Frank here. And then we'll also be sending a copy of the deck and recording tomorrow morning. So be on the lookout for that coming in your email first thing. All right, let's introduce our speakers. Katie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thank you again, like Karsten said, for taking the time to be here this afternoon. Frank and I are really excited to talk about Acumatica and Sage Intacct, and hopefully we can provide an overview of and a snapshot just of the features, functionalities, differences, and yeah, hopefully you'll walk away today feeling confident in taking your next step in your ERP choice or journey.
Yeah, I'm Frank Cuccio, an account executive at Braincell. I've been here almost 4 years now. Yeah, really excited to talk about these two products today. I think they are kind of the two of the three big players in the mid-market accounting ERP space. They both have their strengths, depending on a lot of factors that we'll get into. But I think today's going to be the tip of the iceberg, so I encourage everyone to ask questions and definitely schedule some time with us after. All right.
Thank you both. So just a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll start off with just the state of ERP, what the industry is like, some key areas to consider. Then we'll get into what we are all here for, the overview of Acumatica and Sage Intacct, and then wrap it up with a Q&A. I do have a few polls to start us off with, so just give me one moment and I'll get the first one launched. So we'd love to know, what ERP software are you using now? Sage 50, Sage 100 or 300, Microsoft Great Plains. Maybe you don't have one, so you're here today, or another option. Everyone a few seconds. All right, I'm gonna close this one. Let's see where we're at. All right, so it looks like we got most Sage 100 and 300, or tie between that and other. So we'll definitely be following up to see what you're on.
Yeah, drop it in the chat.
Yeah. Our next question here. How would you describe your relationship with your ERP? Are you happily married and in it for the long haul? Maybe you've had some rocky moments, but are committed to making it work. Let's say you're exploring other options, or relationship. What relationship? Okay, I'll give everyone just a few more seconds. All right. All right. So it looks like we got some people exploring some options, or maybe no relationship at all. Well, we're glad you're here today. And with that, I have one last poll, then we'll get into the good stuff. Based off that, so what is most important to you in a cloud solution? And you can check as many boxes here. It's automatic upgrades, drill down reporting, maybe an all-in-one solution, access everywhere, or you have no idea, and you're just here to learn more. Lots of responses coming in. All right, I'm gonna close this one out. Looks like we're kind of across the board here. About 50% of you, drill down reporting, all in one solution, a little bit of everything. Well, fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you all for that. Let's hop into it. Kick it off to you, Frank.
Awesome. Yeah, those were some interesting results kind of across the board. And I think this presentation should have a little bit for everybody. So just to talk about the ERP market, just in general, it's pretty big. I think there was a study, it's 124 billion in revenue by 2030, and 70% of companies are using it. And of those 70%, 53% are using cloud-based ERP. So it's not like the newest thing on the market, Cloud ERP. There are still a bit of folks kind of lagging behind, whether that be compliance or regulations or other reasons. But we'll get into some of the details on why Cloud ERP is great. But just kind of look at all the competitors on that chart there, 620 different options. And we're talking about two of them today. Probably the two you need to talk about.
All right, I'm up. So yeah, the value of Cloud ERP. I know I'm preaching to the choir here about some of these items here, but let's dig in a little bit further. So the single source of truth, right? Our ERP systems store all the company information, so we want to prevent any error, duplication, and inconsistency. And I think with a cloud solution like Acumatica and Intacct, it helps to prevent that. So you have that single source of truth and that data quality. And then we get to visibility, right? So the accountants can track all the data. They have that visibility on costs, profitability. And so with these cloud solutions, we have a little bit of visibility for, say, the salespeople, for the different business units, the locations, to be able to see kind of all that information. Some of the salespeople might want to retrieve like details on orders, transactions, inventory. So with this cloud solution, you have that visibility from the top down. And then we talk about automation and productivity. So the ERP system can replace multiple types of software that you might have, say, in Sage 100 and 300 with add-ons. So it's like that all-in-one solution that we're looking for. Some of you out there might be using spreadsheets. So this way, with these solutions, we can get rid of those spreadsheets and just include everything in the tool as in one place. So you have that automation and that productivity, and then kind of ties in with the cost savings, right? So you're not purchasing all these extra add-ons. You're kind of unifying the key aspects of the business. The ERP becomes like that smart way to cut cost and just maintaining that return of investment. So you have that kind of resource optimization, regulatory compliance and risk management. So this is really important. ERP systems comply with the industry rules and regulations. Those local and federal laws that can also be changing, tax compliance rules, things like that for any industry with specific code of conduct. So that's something we'll talk about later too with Acumatica and Intacct. And then just, bringing that overall increased customer satisfaction. With a cloud solution, you have that bird's eye view. So you can see where your business goals are. Are you kind of tracking where you want to be? If not, making that kind of pivot to where you need to be just by looking at the processes, looking at the numbers, looking to just make sure that, even to the smallest detail, you're going where you need to go. And if you're not, it can be tracked a lot sooner so that you can kind of reach out to the customer if there's something that you notice is amiss. And then this is, again, another thing that we'll talk about later is the updates. And I know with the Sage 100 and 300 folks out there, you had a TLS upgrade that happened last year. And it can be costly. It can take time away from being able to use your ERP system. So with the updates in Acumatica, which we, again, will talk about, you alleviate that cost. It's something that's done automatically. You don't need to think about it. It's not an additional cost on top of what you pay already. So yeah, just a little snapshot of the value that you get in a cloud ERP as opposed to an on-premise.
Yeah, so most of the ERPs on the market, kind of the cloud ones, the big three that we talk about, they pretty much all have similar feature sets. Some will do one thing a little bit better than the other, but then that one will do something a little bit better than the first. So it's really, before we start considering the software, we got to look at some other areas during the initial evaluation. So I'm not going to read them all off, but we want to look at where you're at right now, and kind of how do we close the delta between where you are and where you need to be. So that's a lot of times focused on process. One of the things we offer here at BrainCell is blueprinting engagement, where we would sit down and do business process analysis, map out your current state, your current process maps, and then ultimately where you want to be, and then prepare a change management plan for the processes, and then a technology blueprint for the software itself. And during that blueprint, a lot of times we'll do what's called a vendor selection, where we'll have a rubric of all the things that we've talked to you about that's important, and then we evaluate the various options that you have, even ones that we don't work with, because our blueprinting consulting group is agnostic, and they're firewalled off from folks like Katie and me, who would prefer to sell something that is in our portfolio. So definitely something to consider if you're kind of like, whoa, which way am I going to go? So some other areas you'll want to look at is there any software that you're using that's completely, it's important that you stay on it, you can't change, maybe it's just industry specific? Well, I would look, does it integrate with any of the options? Because if it does, that may be something in that systems column. I wouldn't say base your entire system off of that, but it's something to consider. You also want to look at the reporting capabilities. What does your management want to see? What's going to be required for regulatory purposes, and can you do it in those systems? And then the other ones are kind of par for the course, but all the cloud ERP is going to be flexible and have the ability to scale. They're all going to have upgrades that get pushed out periodically. And then the new thing, everyone's hot with AI these days, and all the products are finding ways to put it in, and some of them are pretty interesting. Some are on the roadmap still. We'll see if they get there. But I think there's a reason to be excited, because there is some cool things.
Great. Okay, well, thank you both for kind of setting the stage, giving us some background. Frank will be representing Acumatica today, and Katie Geyer will be presenting Sage Intacct. So let's get into it.
Cool. So Acumatica. Now, this is a true cloud software that I think came on the market in 2008. So it's been around a while now. The deployment options, so you can do this SaaS model where you log into your browser, you go to whatever your company name is at .acumatica.com, and then you can access it there anywhere from any device. But you also have the option, if you needed to, for compliance purposes. Sometimes contractors with Department of Defense, for example, need to have on-premise or private cloud systems. So you do have the option to do it that way. So if you're on 100 and 300 and you're hosted with BrainCell or with another partner, that's kind of the same. It would be the same kind of setup for the most part. So some other differentiators with Acumatica, it has a built-in CRM. So it's not an outside system. It's a module that can be turned on. And when we talk about kind of where Acumatica's industry focus is, they have additions for construction, manufacturing, distribution, and then they have general business, and then a retail/e-commerce edition. So if you think about those kinds of businesses, the people who are doing the selling, a lot of them are going to be doing quotes, and quotes are going to be in the CRM and naturally just push in and turn into a sales order. So it's a really nice way to keep one database of all your information and not have to worry about integrating. Now, if you do have a CRM, which a lot of people do, it can be integrated into Acumatica as well. So you don't have to change your system, but for companies without a CRM, this is a good option, and it's pretty powerful. It can do probably 90% of the, it has 90% of the features that most of the CRMs have. May do it a little bit differently, but it does it all. We get to reporting. One of the things with Acumatica and their reporting is all your stuff is in one system. So like I just said with your CRM, let's say you're a manufacturing or construction company that is manufacturing components that get installed on a job site. So you've got, your construction projects, you've got your CRM, so you're selling the deals, you're doing the bids, and then you've got the manufacturing end of it where you're looking at production costs. All of that's in one system, and you can report on all of it without ever leaving the system. So hopefully you can kind of think of that analogy and apply it to your business. But yeah, everything's all in one place. So goodbye Excel. But if you need it, you could also export it into Excel if you want. You also own your own data, so you can take it out of the system at any time. It's really easy. It's a SQL database. Software gets updated biannually, so twice a year. If you're on the SaaS model, it'll just get rolled out for you. If you're on private cloud, you would have to do that upgrade. It's pretty simple though. And then, like I said, SQL database for storage, and based on the size of your business and your subscription model, small, advanced, enterprise. They actually just changed it like a week ago. There's now 4 different divisions, but same idea. It scales up with different amounts of gigabytes. I will hand off to Katie.
Yeah, so Sage Intacct is a purely cloud-based solution. So all the customers are on that same cloud platform, the same version. So you're having just that consistent customer experience across the board. CRM capabilities, they do not have a built-in one like Acumatica, but they have an integration with Salesforce. The other thing that I would like to say about that is you can integrate other different CRMs into Intacct as well. So that happens to be one integration that they have on their price list with Salesforce. As far as reporting and the role-based reporting, Sage Intacct has very incredibly user-friendly out-of-the-box reports. I think they have like over 150 reports. They're easily modifiable. They're role-based, as it says right there. And then they have multi-dimensional reporting. So you can have different locations, different business units, and you can have that drill down capability. Their reporting, I would say, is really kind of stellar. If reporting is something that is kind of high on your must list, Sage Intacct would be one that you would definitely want to explore a little bit more in depth. They have the business users, and I know Frank said that Acumatica, you own your own data. In Intacct, you do have access to all your data as well. So I think that's a little bit misleading, but I'll let them have that. And then our updates are done quarterly. They are done for across the board. So it's kind of a seamless thing that happens with Sage Intacct. And as I said, all customers are on that same version. So yeah, that's
Yeah, don't
a
worry.
different.
I love Intacct too. One other thing, we just got an integration with HubSpot that's pretty standardized through Sage Intacct.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So
Yeah.
those are two big
Yeah,
CRM
that's actually the
players.
two big CRM players in the game.
Go on our website because we did one of these contender series for HubSpot versus Salesforce as well. So check that out.
Yeah,
Cool.
that's great.
So the integration ecosystems of both these.
Yeah.
We got 250 integrated solutions in Acumatica. You got 300 on Intacct. I mean, if there's an integration for one of them, 90% of the time there's an integration on the other one. So, I mean, all of these softwares are playing with both Acumatica and Intacct. And luckily, if it doesn't have a marketplace solution, you know, both systems have open APIs in where we can either build an integration or use what's called iPaaS, like integration platform as a service. It's a piece of middleware that just connects to both systems and you map the data across. But yeah, you can pretty much connect to almost anything with all the various different ways.
And maybe if anyone there has a specific question about something, just feel free to put it in that or reach out to us later about that.
Yeah, definitely. So dashboards, you know, Acumatica's dashboards are super customizable and configurable. And I think just to kind of note the difference there, customizable in this instance, I'm referring to the ability to really change what's in there, not kind of drag and drop. So drag and drop, I would say, is configurable. It can do that, but we can also bring in stuff from outside of the system. So for example, you can embed a web page or a widget, you know, from another tool right in your dashboard in Acumatica. You can even, you know, for construction sites, if you have a camera that's on a job site, or maybe if you're a manufacturer, you have a camera down in your factory that's like watching the machines, you can actually embed the live stream right in your dashboard along with all of your Acumatica data. So it's really flexible in that way. And these dashboards, they're role-based and, you know, permission-based too. And they are configurable in that I can put data from, you know, the manufacturing stuff as well as my financial data, depending on my job. If I have access to it, I can put it all in one place, and I can make a bunch of different dashboards too, depending on, you know, what I'm trying to accomplish. You can even embed like Tableau or Power BI like widgets within the dashboard too. So if you are trying to report data that's outside of Acumatica, you know, you can just do it that way.
All right, Frank, I'll give you that one about embedding the web pages. I do like that, but I feel like with Sage Intacct, same thing. They're configurable. You can set it up exactly as you want it to be, so that you have like that the KPIs just on your home dashboard or however you want to see it. I think what might be a little bit different than Acumatica is that they have Sage Intacct uses dimensions, so you can create all these dimensions and have that drill down capability throughout the reports. And you can change it in an instant, and then it'll just formulate that new view. So what could have taken you, I don't even know how long, in Sage 100 or 300 can happen in like seconds. So it's a really great tool, and yeah, doesn't have me embedded, but
I'll give Intacct a little credit here too. You know, what Katie was kind of alluding to with the dimensions is you set up your dashboard and you've got your KPIs up top, let's say, and you got a report, let's call it, you know, expenses by customer. So you have that set up, but I'm looking at location for my New York office. that's the location's also a dimension. I change that filter, and instantly all of those charts, reports, KPIs, they're all the same KPI, let's say, or the same chart, but I change it to the Boston office, and now all the numbers instantly refresh. So yeah, that is a time saver, especially when you start using account groups too, or dimension groups. So if I'm gonna look at just my Northeast locations, I can just group them together, and there we go, consolidate it. I can look at all of them, one of them. The options are pretty much endless. Cool. So reporting, and I think I mentioned this a little bit earlier. The big draw with Acumatica's reporting is the ability to, like, most of the data that you need to run your business is going to be in Acumatica without having to bring it out or export it. You're able to just report on all of that. Acumatica doesn't have dimensions the same way that Sage Intacct does, but they have something similar. They use sub-accounts and segments. So you're able to get a lot of the ability of what dimensions do, just not as dimensional. But I think it's a trade-off that, depending on your industry, makes sense to do. The reporting out of the box with Acumatica is a lot more customizable, I would say. So Sage, you would probably have to get some add-ons to. They have really great reporting, but they also have 2 additional things you can buy. Acumatica is all of it's included. So again, depends.
Yeah. I would say with Intacct, it's very, very user friendly. And although it might not be as customizable as Acumatica, yeah, as I said, I think they have about 150 reports right out of the box. So, and they are modifiable. And all dimensions are available in the dashboards and the reports. So you really can drill down and get that real-time information. So
yeah, and when I said that they aren't customizable, they are. Don't get me wrong, they are completely customizable, but you could also get the financial, like the interactive custom
report writer.
Which is an add-on, but it's a really powerful add-on that trumps what you get in Acumatica, just purely based on the dimensions. So again, if you're the reporting financials only kind of company, then it's Intacct.
You really
If
should
you've
look
got
at it,
a
right?
different focus, Acumatica. So, all right, upgrades. Yeah, so I guess kind of in line with upgrades, one of the things I want to mention, just because it's sort of unique, it's something that everyone says they do, but in my software career, I've only seen one company actually doing it, and it's Acumatica, where the Acumatica community has a thing called ideas. So if there's a feature or function that you feel is missing, you can submit it as an idea. And over the course of the year, people can vote on each idea, and the highest ideas with the highest total votes are like at the top of the list, and the dev team actually will add them into the product. I mean, not every single one, because like we don't know what it takes to like build that out, but yeah, they even let you know, oh yeah, this was a like community idea. That's why we did this. So I think that's pretty cool. The software upgrades, like we mentioned earlier, they're biannually. You'll get notice that it's being rolled out, and then they roll it out. If you're on the on-premise version, it's a little bit harder. It's still going to be easier than what you're used to right now, but that's the trade-off for not being cloud SaaS. But yeah, I mean, these features that are coming out with both of these systems these days are just pretty incredible. And I'd encourage you, if you're interested, go look at like some of the later release notes for either of these.
Yeah, and so Intacct it's a quarterly, as we mentioned before. Also, I think something that they have, they'll send out the release kind of announcement, and if you feel like you need to do some testing, they will provide a sandbox area, which I thought was pretty cool, just to let you to do some testing of your own if you feel like that it's needed. But it's pretty seamless. It's kind of all behind the scenes and just happens, so you don't even have to think about it. And I know for my Sage 100 and 300 customers out there, that might be like a breath of fresh air.
Like to say, you leave work on Friday, they push out the upgrade, you show up on Monday, and you get that notice on the right there, what's new, and you just see what features you now have access to. So that is pretty good.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, AI capabilities. So this is obviously on the newer side, but they've now had some of these features for over a year at least now. So AP document recognition. So this is like invoice scanning. So these systems are using OCR, optical character recognition. You put in your PDF and it reads it, it understands it, and then it matches it into your system with your vendor. So it basically codes it for you, getting ready to just approve the invoice. So it can definitely save a lot of time for your accounts payable folks. I know a lot of hours every week are spent with this task of getting all the invoices into the system. Well, this will definitely reduce that. And then on the same note, kind of the same idea, same technology is the expense receipt recognition. So you're out on a business trip, you go out to dinner, you get a receipt, you just open the Acumatica mobile app, which is a full mobile app that has anything you can do on the computer version, you can do on the phone, but you can take a picture of the receipt and it does the same thing as like the vendor recognition. GL anomaly detection. So this is an interesting one. So what this does is it uses machine learning to kind of review all of your transactions, and the longer you use it, the better it gets. So if, for example, every month you have an expense from a certain vendor for $1,500 and it's like clockwork, and then 1 month it goes in as 15,000, you didn't notice, you just accidentally put an extra zero in, it's going to flag that, and it's going to say, hey, every other time this is 1,500, or this seems to be way outside the normal range. Maybe it's a vendor that you've never had a expense for more than $100, and then all of a sudden you've got a $2,000 expense. It's going to say, hey, this is like outside of the norm. So this is an anomaly, and we just want to make sure you look at it. Same thing, it validates dates on financial forms. It's just there to be safeguard against typos, against just like human oversight. So that one is that's definitely one I would use because I make a lot of mistakes. And then the last thing is the auto predicts. So this is, anybody who's used Google understands how this works. You start typing something and magically it gives you like the gray letters that show you what you're going to type. And you just click and hit enter. The system's able to do that as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Frank, I don't think I can add anything. Sage Intacct has pretty much the same. It might be a different name, but yeah, and it seems like the technology just gets better and better.
The intelligent time is unique to Intacct as far as I know. And I think this one's pretty cool for project-based companies. if you're assigning hours to specific projects and you're doing time and expense, what the intelligent time does is it can actually, you like link it to your Outlook calendar. There's a couple other sources, but it goes out and like reads your calendar, and it like prepares draft like time reports based on like what was on your calendar and like other, I forget what the other sources of data are, but basically gives you a draft version of your time and expense sheet, and then you can just either like take something off or add it. So it's going to save you time there.
Okay. Good, thanks.
Yeah.
As we get into our last few slides, I just want to remind everyone, if you have questions, drop them in the question box. We'll answer them.
This one's the hard one to do, the pricing.
Not for me, Frank.
It's not that hard, but it's hard to like kind of read it down the paper. So hopefully I'll be able to explain it correctly. So Acumatica's pricing is not user-based. So all of those folks out there who've got, they want to have 1,000 users in the system, but they can't because it's like cost prohibitive, like especially like on Sage 100 or 300, you have a warehouse staff, like you want to get them licenses so they can see what's going on. You can't because it's just too expensive. Well, Acumatica solves that. They got rid of the user-based pricing, and they do what's called consumption-based pricing. And so consumption-based pricing is going to put you in a tier based on how much of the system resources you're using. Because again, you're in the cloud, and the cloud has limited computational resources. So the people who are using it more are going to pay more. And the way they calculate that is they look at your monthly average of certain documents. So they will look at 10 different documents, and it's like sales orders, vendor, like AP bills, invoices that are going out to customers. There's 10 different types. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but they look at those and they look at the monthly total for each one of them. And then whichever one of those is the highest, that's going to set your tier. So if you're sending, 500 invoices out, like to bill people every month, and you're sending, or you're getting 200 vendor invoices coming in, the 500 would be what sets the target for your tier. And if you look, there's 4 different segments. There's essentials, which is really for small companies, startups, 0 to 10 employees. They have like a limit, I think, of 1,000 documents a month, and then it scales up from there all the way to enterprise of over 200 employees. The price range you see there is based on edition. So like I had mentioned earlier, there's 5 editions, so some of them are priced a little bit lower. I think construction's on the lower side and manufacturing is on the higher side because of kind of what is available in that system. And definitely reach out if you're in any of those industries. I'm happy to walk you through what comes in the package because it's a lot. Basically, everything that you may have now as an add-on is going to most likely be standard part of your base package. You can do multiple business entities, that's included. And then something like fixed assets would be an add-on because that's like a whole separate kind of component. I think I mentioned it kind of in passing earlier, but one of the really big strengths too is if you fall into like 2 of the industries, so like I mentioned, construction and manufacturing, you can have both like features from both sets. So you can do all the construction project stuff with the construction features and then have it feed right into like the manufacturing and then like all the way through. So it's really powerful. And it's for people with a lot of users, this is definitely something to consider. So it definitely makes a lot of sense. But yeah, the cost is really going to depend on your size, your number of documents, what add-ons you need. Those are pretty much the deciding factors.
All right, so Intacct, it's pretty transparent and straightforward. I don't think we have the cost for just the core financials, which is $68.40, but you could do math, right? Subtract it from that because we included it in the platform starting price.
Because
So
you have
just
to have a
for,
business user.
yeah, you have to have that. Ah, so as far as the 10 employee pack that you can purchase, so those if there's employees that just need kind of read-only access, but they have the ability to enter and approve like expense reports and timesheets and purchase recs, those can be, you can kind of loop them in under that kind of 10 user employee, as opposed to purchasing a whole business license. And then, yeah, just we included pricing just on the additional entities and fixed assets. But if there's something specific, like Frank said, that you would like pricing on, we'd be glad to pass that along. And I know Sage likes to keep people in the family. So for our 100 and 300 folks out there, it's definitely worth it exploring. So these are just list prices, and there is incentive to kind of move
Yeah, I
elsewhere.
mean, listen, if you're on a sequel version of either 100 or you're on Sage 300 and you're hosting your system, come call us, because it's probably not going to be, it could be around the same amount, honestly. It's worth a conversation.
Yeah, it definitely is. Agree.
All right, right fit, wrong fit. And take this all with a grain of salt, because they can both mostly handle, either. But these are the sweet spots. When I have somebody call in and they ask which one, this is what I'm gonna kind of tell them. Acumatica, manufacturing, construction, retail,
Mhm.
distribution. They have the industry editions. There's a reason for it. They took people who had experience in those industries, and they had a lot of input into how the system got built. Um, if you're in one of those, Acumatica is definitely the something to look at. Like I mentioned a little bit earlier, if you need lots of users, Acumatica's got unlimited users. Sorry, my monitor's just turned off for a second. There we go. You own your own data, so you can pull it out at any time. It's functional. It's not in some format that you can't use. If you got sales folks or you've got people making deliveries and you need them to be able to access the system remotely from their phone, Acumatica's mobile app is really strong. Acumatica also has like a field service component built in as well, which is pretty sweet. It's like just another example of like not needing another system. And I know a lot of people I talk to complain about their field service and trying to integrate it with both their CRM and their ERP, and it's always a big mess. So if that's something that you've dealt with and that resonates, give us a call. If you're looking for a customizable solution, Acumatica all the way. And SMB, I'd say mid-market. It can scale from one employee, just a sole operator, all the way up to thousands. Now the other side of the coin, Acumatica it's expensive to implement. The reason for that is because it's customizable and because there's just so much inside of it. A lot of times you have to look at it. It's replacing multiple softwares. So you're doing your entire financials. That's like one project. and then you're doing your manufacturing, that's like another project. So if you look at it that way, it kind of makes sense. You can get like 3 full software projects for the price of like 1.5. So it depends on your appetite there. I'd say as far as industries go, you can do it, but they're not really known for nonprofit, healthcare, restaurants. I think that's going to be changing soon. But yeah, if you don't have folks with like an IT background, if you're doing the on-premise or the private cloud deployment, and you don't have folks to support it, either go with the SaaS model or go with a different system. And even though there is the edition, the Essentials edition, if you only have a few users and you're never going to scale up, like you just know that you're going to be a small company forever, that's what you want, it might not be the right fit, because you really aren't going to see the value of the consumption pricing, until you start scaling.
Yeah, makes sense. So with Intacct, just some of the industries that are a really good fit. They do a fabulous job in nonprofit, professional services, all of these, restaurants, healthcare. Like Frank said, manufacturing distribution, they haven't really gotten up to speed yet, although they are in beta. So it is kind of up and coming. It's not quite there yet. For those looking for a pure cloud solution, this is it. This is what Sage Intacct does, and they do it really well. As we talked about before, the reporting and dashboards, if reporting is a big number one on your list, Intacct is probably the top tier. It is a scalable solution. Even with just the base, there's a lot to it. So after you get up and running, there's so many more options that you can add on to help just with your business flow and process. So it's a nice option there as well. It's HIPAA compliant, which Acumatica is not. So if that's a must, that helps, that out of the gate. And, just the wrong fits here. We know lots of users, it's very expensive. As far as implementation, it's expensive there too. So if you have a small budget, the upfront cost might be there, but maybe down the road. Like if you're looking for seeing where you want to be going, you might have to kind of bite the bullet for the implementation. And then you have just the cost yearly might not be as much, right? So
I would also say just expensive is relative, and it also,
well, if you're on 100 or 300,
we're selling it to you, like we're not going to sell you something that you're not going to get an ROI on. Like part of what we do is the reason we ask to do those discovery calls and we really get into the nitty gritty is because we want to build out that business case with you. We want to go in and say, all right, you told us that it takes you 2 weeks to close your books. If we could close the books in 1 day, what is that worth to you? In terms of employee hours and in terms of peace of mind. I never say, oh, this is going to replace somebody, but maybe when somebody retires, you don't necessarily have to backfill them, or maybe you're able to divert their energy to
somewhere
efforts
else
that are going to bring in more money. I think that's important because you could be a huge billion-dollar company and somebody just tells you this is what it costs and you have no context, it's going to seem wild. But when you put it in the frame of what you're going to get out of it, it's going to make sense. I mean, most people are getting an ROI in some cases less than a year, most cases less than a year and a half, or less than 2. So it's worth it.
Awesome.
Agreed. Nice point, Frank.
thank you both. I think that was very educational on the different features and what's a fit, what's not a fit. So let's hop into some questions. We got about 10 minutes left. I guess kind of rolling off that previous discussion, could you explain how much will or would like implementation cost?
Yeah, so this is like the answer of the day. It depends. So I'll kind of go into what the factors are that kind of go into how a project gets costed. So first, it's going to depend on, we told you it's scalable. Like, what did you end up selecting as far as your software subscription goes? If you just got the core modules and you don't have any add-ons, obviously the effort to get it up and running is going to be less. When you look at something like Sage Intacct, we talked about the dimensions, but what we didn't really get into is like how you get there. So the dimensions are because if you look at your chart of accounts now, if you're on 100 or 300, you probably have your main account numbers, maybe you have some segments, maybe you have 2 different segments. And that could get like exponentially like bigger as the company grows. You open another location, now every set of accounts has, you just duplicate it again for the new location. Well, with Intacct, you're just going to have those main account numbers. We're trying to slim your chart of accounts down as much as possible and use the dimensions to get kind of to be able to distinguish the way you would have with the segments. So part of it is also looking at, from an accounting standpoint, we're redesigning your chart of accounts, and it's going to be for the better. Like, promise you, it's going to be better. Most of the time, people don't even know that somebody made an account like 10 years ago. They're no longer here. Like, why is it named that? What's that numbering scheme? So that, is part of it. Data migration. We try to limit the amount of data you bring into the new system. Best practices, a year, maybe 2 of data. If you're on Sage 100, 300, especially, once you stop paying your subscription, you can still view your data. It's read only. So we'll bring in like summary, end of quarter, end of month, and a year if you want, but you do not need every transaction line from the time you started your business in your new system. And if you do want it, it's just going to be super duper expensive because you got to import all of it and it just takes a lot of time. It's not worth it. So that's like another factor, like how much data are we bringing in? Training. Is your team going to be self-sufficient and go look at all the online on-demand courses, or are they going to need some hand-holding? That's something to consider. So there's a lot of different factors, but general ballpark, what we usually say to get you like a decent idea, you'll be in the ballpark, is 1.5 to 2.5 times the software price. So if you have a $20,000 software subscription, and this is list price, you're probably going to be, 30,000 to 40,000, 50,000, like in that kind of neck of the woods. On the low end, and then obviously you could do math for the high end. Is that perfect? No, but that's again why we have these discussions and we try to do an estimate and price it out for you and break it down. And a lot of times what we can do is do a phased approach. Like, you don't have to do everything all at once. For Acumatica, you could do your financials in 1 year, and then you can do, your manufacturing in another year if those are in different systems now. And you don't have to turn everything on all at once. So you can kind of look at the process that way. One other thing I would mention about implementations, though, is this is going to be an effort on the customer client side. Especially in the beginning when we're doing our requirements gathering and talking to you about your processes, we need you to show up for the meetings, and we need, if we give you a template for your data import, you need to actually fill it in, because that is where we run into and have the most delays. It's just we're showing up for meetings and we can't really do the next step because there's dependencies. So if you can try to time it, there's never really a good time to do a project like this, but if I'm an accountant, I'm not like kicking off in April, for example, like an accounting firm. So yeah, hopefully that answered the questions.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. We have a few more.
Yeah, no problem.
So the first one is, we have a few Acumatica related. The first one is, does Acumatica handle multiple warehouse and locations in the inventory management area?
Yes, it does. I think it does, out of the box.
Perfect. Do you know, how does Acumatica handle scan-based trading activity?
Can you repeat that?
Scan-based trading activity.
I don't know what that means. I can Google it real quick. Scan-based.
Okay. And if it's Cher who asked, so Cher, we can follow up with you on that one. We'll let you know. We have a few more. We have 3 minutes left, so I'm gonna try and get through as many. If we don't get to it, I'll follow up with you with the answer, just like this last one. Our next question is, how challenging is a Sage 100 Acumatica conversion, time and money?
I mean, it's not challenging. That's one of probably the most common migration routes. Time and money, it depends on the industry and what your focus is. Manufacturing, if we're bringing in thousands of inventory items and all the kind of the factors I spoke about earlier, that's going to take some time, and time is money. But definitely talk to us because we can get you a ballpark idea.
Perfect.
Looks like scan-based trading. Suppliers maintain ownership of inventory within retailers' warehouses or stores until items are scanned at the point of sale. So this is like the opposite of drop shipping, I guess. I will have to get back to you on that one. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's too unique, so I'll look that up, and whoever was asking that question, let's get connected.
Perfect. All right, I'm gonna have one more question and then I'll wrap it up. And then, like I said, if I didn't answer your question, I'll make sure to follow up with you immediately after this webinar. Does the AI-driven AP documents autofill AP entries?
It fills drafts.
Okay.
So it's not going to post the transaction for you. It's going to always give you the opportunity to review it because we don't trust the AI yet. I don't know that I ever will. But yeah, it's going to do 95% of the work, and then you just check it. And again, that always gets better with time because it's training on your data.
Awesome. All right. Well, those are some great questions, and thank you all. And again, and I've said this like 3 times, I promise I'll follow up with you afterwards with an answer to your questions if we didn't get to it. But as a thank you, I just want to let everyone know about our ERP optimization audit. Frank kind of hit on this. We really just want to start off with a discovery call on, reviewing your current tech stack, your processes, understand where those challenges are and what improvements that you want to be made, before identifying like what those next steps might be. Also a great opportunity to identify where you can leverage automation and data. And like I said, document any of those actionable next steps. But if you're ready now, you can scan this QR code. This goes to my colleague Zach's calendar. Pick a time and he'll connect you either with Katie or Frank here or someone else from our brain cell team to get the conversation started. Otherwise, we'll be following up with you tomorrow. Again, the deck and recording will be sent to you, so look out in your email tomorrow morning. And of course, reach out to us at any time with any additional questions.
So I did look it up real quick, the scam-based trading, just because I was genuinely curious. So you can do like vendor managed inventory functionality, and Acumatica has an integration with True Commerce for like the EDI connections. So that's how they would manage that. And there's also warehouse management that's built into Acumatica. You got to pay for that, but you can, you know, the scanning is hooked right into the inventory module that way. And then it would just EDI back to whoever needs to get that info.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you all again. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate it, and I hope everyone
Thank
has a great
you.
rest of your day.
Thanks, Carson.
Thank you.